Hi, this is Pratim Ranjan Bose, and you are watching Podcast with Pratim, presented by Iravati Research and Communication Center, or IRCC. I have with me former Governor of Meghalaya, Tripura, and Arunachal Pradesh, Honorable Shri Tathagata Roy. Shri Roy is a construction engineer of eminence. He was Chief Engineer Design of Kolkata Metro Rail. That was the first metro in India. He was Professor of Jadavpur University. He served as state president of West Bengal BJP between 2002 and 2006. Most important of all, he is a best-selling author. His book on the exodus of Bengali Hindus from East Pakistan and Bangladesh is among the most regarded research work on the subject. Welcome, sir. With him around, I will discuss two crucial subjects: Hindu nationalist politics in West Bengal and the condition of minorities in Bangladesh. Here is a quick brief on the topic. Viewers will know this platform is dedicated to national and international issues. We discuss domestic politics in exceptional cases. The Hindu nationalist politics of BJP in West Bengal fits this bill. Hindu nationalists had a reasonable base in the post-partition state in 1950s. In the first Lok Sabha election, Hindu Mahasabha got 9 seats in the country, 3 were in Bengal. After that, the force fizzled out. It resurfaced briefly in 1998-1999 election with a maximum of around 12% votes. The next peak came in 2016 when the party got a seat in the assembly for the first time. From 2019 Lok Sabha election, BJP is consistently getting 38 to 40% votes to become the principal opposition. This is 2/3 of the polled Hindu votes. Statistically, they are within the striking range of power. But there is a big but. We will discuss that with Shri Roy. Sir, Trinamool is in power due to barely 15% Hindu votes. A maximum of 3.5% switch of Hindu votes from Trinamool is enough to bring BJP to power. Yet the party looks so unsure and unimpressive. They seem to be lacking the biting force. Bengal BJP seem to be an exception in the country. Why? Over to you.
See, there are several reasons. One reason is historical. The populace of Bengal, for a long time, had been impregnated with the ideas of Gandhism and Marxism, more Marxism than Gandhism. This had put it in their minds that anything to do with Hindu nationalism, anything in support of Hindus is communal, therefore reprehensible, therefore not to be touched with a 10-foot pole. This is one reason why BJP took such a long time to launch, in spite of the fact that it had been working in the state since the Ram Rajya movement. That is around 1988.
Right.
Then the second problem is much more serious, and that is organizational. Organizationally, the BJP's problems are such that I have been a BJP Karyakarta for a long time, and I am not at liberty to discuss every little thing that has happened within the party. But at least I can say this, that there are certain very serious organizational flaws in the party. In the sense, the number one is it's the factionalism within the party. I remember a long time back, I was traveling in the same car as Advaniji, somewhere in Bardhaman, and he didn't know me at that time. But I was the state president. I had just become the state president. So he asked me, "Aapka naam kya hai?" No, I haven't become the state president. I think I was the vice president. So he asked me, "Aapka naam kya hai?" So I told him. He said, "Aap karte kya hai?" So I said, "Sir, मैं जादवपुर यूनिवर्सिटी में पढ़ाता हूँ." So he then asked me a question, "आपका बंगाल में इतना गुटबाजी क्यों?" So this is not a thing that I could readily answer. So I remained silent. But I had resolved that I would try to put an end to this Gutbaji if at that time it was already in the air that I'm going to become the next president. And I had resolved that I would try to put an end to this Gutbaji. Unfortunately, I could not do it, but I tried my hard. You see, the problem is like this, that people talk of his person being so and so's person. Say, Tapan Sikdar, late Tapan Sikdar. People used to say one is so and so is our Tapan Sikdar's person. So and so is Sukumar Banerjee's person. I'm taking the name of these two gentlemen because they are both gone. Uh, Now, this is not a healthy thing for a political party. You never hear from the CPIM, one of our competitors, you never hear about them. Someone says that I am Biman Bose's person or I am Muhammad Salim's person. They are all CPM's person. So this is something which has got to be drummed into the head of every BJP Karyakarta that they are all BJP's persons. None of them are so and so this person's so and so this person's person. So that is the second problem. Number three is there is a tradition of BJP of being laying too much emphasis on organization and too little on strategizing. This is something that I have tried to bring into the notice of the party leadership. See, I am not an organizer by habit, by nature. I am not an organizer. I am basically a political thinker, and you could say I am a strategist. But mm, in all that, I have not been able to convince the rest of the leadership, who are basically organizers, that strategizing is necessary. As a result of that, there is no think tank in BJP. BJP very urgently needs a think tank and needs to craft a strategy, craft a narrative. As a result of this lack of narrative, very serious problems are faced by the BJP. I'll just give you one example. During the 2021 elections, assembly elections, which were one of the worst possible elections that BJP had faced. With all the advantages in its favor, it was the election that should not have been, that should serve as a model for how an election should not be fought, the 2021 assembly elections. So 2021 elections, Mamata Banerjee had crafted a narrative that BJP is an anti-Bengali party. Now, nobody gave any attention to it, but it was finding its way into the voters' DNA. People went on making usual political speeches, going from one place to another and mouthing the usual inanities. Nobody tried to craft a counter narrative, and nobody tried to identify issues. I'm taking 2021 because nothing can be worse than 2021. Earlier on, when BJP was not in the running, third party or fourth party, it was different. But in 2021, it was the second party. And it was being said that the party stands a chance of coming to power. But Mamata had engaged this master strategist, Prashant Kishore. Probably he had crafted this strategy. And as a result of that, this strategy took hold in the minds of the voters. BJP did nothing about it. Furthermore, BJP also did not identify any issues on which it was running. It used to say Sonar Bangla, Golden Bengal, and Arno Onnay, no more injustices. These are just empty slogans. These are not specific. No, it doesn't convey any meaning to anyone. So this is another thing that was a shortcoming of the BJP. It still persists. And finally, right now, BJP's problem is that it doesn't have a full-time president. Sukanto Majumdar, who was trying to resurrect the BJP from the mess it had landed in 2021, is now a minister in the central cabinet. Shantanu Nandi, Shantanu, what's his
Thakur.
name? Shantanu Thakur, sorry. Shantanu Thakur is also a minister. The only person left now is Shubhendu Adhikari, and Shubhendu Adhikari, in my humble submission, ought to be anointed president right away and given total support by the center. Unfortunately, it is not happening, and the result is can only be predicted. So I have told you these different things. One was reason was historical, one is organizational, and one is this inability to craft a strategy, that is to work out a think tank. These are, in short, my feelings about how the BJP is not doing, why the BJP is not doing well.
You have actually summarized many of the questions that I drafted were on these lines, and you have really gave a summary. Whosoever listens to the first part, that's a text me to. Let me ask these questions first. Because partly you answered them. Say, whenever this poll debacle happens, a lot of blame is passed on the central leadership. This is a tendency in Bengal, rightly or wrongly. Now, let's look at 2024 election. Party seat tally reduced from 18 to 12. Now, what was the role of the local leadership? I'm asking this with specific reference to, I would request you to give specific reference of two segments. One is Medanipur and one was Bankura. Both are very strong seats for BJP. How did they lose? Over to you, sir.
I know the reasons. Unfortunately, I am not in a position to tell it to you in absolute, totally openly. But I can say that there were errors in the choice of candidates. There were the lack of strategy was still there. BJP still hasn't crafted a strategy. The lack of identification of issues is still there. Uh, these are basically the factors.
I think in Bankura, the Nota vote was as
Yes.
good as the vote margin by which the candidate lost. So, which tells a story that
Could have been. Actually, Bankura, as you rightly said, Bankura is a very strong place, is a place where BJP had a very strong foothold. Bankura is the only city or town where there is a statue to Savarkar. There is no other statue of Savarkar anywhere else in West Bengal, because in Bankura there was a Hindu Mahasabha leader called Rakhori Chatterjee who had installed this statue and who had been nursing the party for a long time. But it's no longer working, and Bankura is right now, it is riven by into different factions. There
right.
was a matter of wrong choice of candidates also.
Sir, you said about the factionalism within the party. Now we have seen it clearly. The top three leaders, they don't look like to be on the same page. Uh, from Delhi, someone comes and put them together, and then things go somewhere again. So I'm not asking you again on this. I have another question for you. Nationally, we see, RSS is the ideological force behind the BJP. It is also the organization secretary is also an RSS nominee. We know that. They contribute significantly, contributed significantly in creating inroads for BJP in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. The party got its first Lok Sabha seat in left-ruled Kerala this year, and in Tamil Nadu, it's coming up very fast. RSS has also gone back to the war room after the Lok Sabha poll debacle in UP. What is the contribution of RSS in West Bengal?
See, that is not an aspect that on which I would like to comment, because although I am a simple Swayamsevak, I am not any kind of office bearer in the RSS. Therefore, I can't comment on this. But suffice it to say that there is no lack of coordination between the RSS and the BJP at uh, lower levels. The problem, as far as I can see, basically is the lack of leadership and the factionalism. Now, today, if the BJP being an all India party, just like the Congress, it is heavily center uh, oriented. What the center says, the BJP has to, state BJP has to follow. And this is, in some ways, this is sort of, mm, this is made the BJP not what it could have been if it were a local party, if it were a state party like the Trinamool Congress. But even so, it could have flourished if only the state BJP had a leader anointed by the center, to whom the center would have been given 100% support. If the center gives 100% support, all the factions willy nilly they will come together. They won't have the courage to defy the center. That is there in the culture of the party. So this is what I think the center ought to do. They ought to anoint, or they ought to appoint one person who, in my submission, can only be Shuvendu Adhikari as the president of the party. Anybody can be the leader of opposition, or he can occupy even two posts as a matter of exception. And with that, if the center says that our total support is behind this person and no, until 2026, no kind of opposition to him will be tolerated, immediately the ranks will close and the party will come together and will be able to function properly. This is not something that is happening. I don't know the reason.
Will RSS accept Shubhendu?
I don't see any reason why not. As I said, I can't comment on what the RSS will do or what the RSS is doing, because I am not an RSS Karyakarta. I can comment on the BJP. I am merely a simple Swayamsevak. But I don't see any reason why the RSS would would object, because there is no one else.
Right, right. I agree. Sir, you said about high command culture, which is, of course, I mean, I had another episode right after the Lok Sabha polls on UP, and it came up there that the high command culture is causing some trouble in the functioning of the state units. That comes probably comes with power and all. There are many sides of the story, but at the same time, with the high command in culture in place or whatever, we have seen that in South they operated and they operated quite independently and came up. So something can work. And you very rightly you pointed out about factionalism, which continues to be a theme. And this is something very silly, because as an opposition, when you are in power, probably it is legitimate to have factions. But when you are in opposition, it's simply not affordable to have so many factions and have such a divided house. So that is where things are impacting BJP somewhere.
You are quite right. You are quite right, and there are certain historical reasons.
Which
There were leaders in the party.
Mhm,
I will not name them.
mhm.
There were leaders in the party who had openly or uh, covertly fanned this factionalism, so that they could have the factions warring between themselves and he could sit as an arbiter on the party. Unfortunately, Fortunately, for the party leaders are not there. That game is not being played, but the seed has remained. So, what is needed to be done today is, as I said a little while back, the center ought to anoint one person as the leader and then tell the hoi polloi of the party, the entire foot soldiers of the party, that look here, you either listen to this person or else. The Sangh will not meddle in the day-to-day functioning of the party. The Sangh never does it. But coordination with the Sangh is essential, because the Sangh is the source of our inspiration. What is our inspiration? What is the source of our inspiration? How did the party come into being? It is only as a result of the Sangh's efforts that the party came into being in 1951. So that is what is needed. There is another aspect on which I hadn't elaborated earlier. This is part of what I had said, that strategizing. We need to project Bengali culture more aggressively, and our leaders ought to understand, our central leaders ought to understand, that this is not just another Hindi-speaking state. This is not Bihar, this is not Madhya Pradesh, this is not Haryana or Rajasthan. This is Bengal, this is a different kind of a place. Here, people are very proud of their language, very proud of their culture, quite justifiably also. And people are also conscious of the fact that their culture is different from the Hindi heartland culture. This is true for Assam, this is true for Odisha also. Fortunately, in Assam and Odisha, they got a couple of very good leaders with which they could surpass this. But in West Bengal, once again, if I go back to 2021, some Hindi-speaking leaders were foisted on the state, who had no idea of this culture, who got hold of a couple of dozen Hindi-speaking speakers, Hindi-speaking leaders from other states. They traveled through the right length and breadth of the state and went on propagandizing. Now, this will not work. You see, people understand Hindi. Urban people in West Bengal understand Hindi fairly well, particularly the men. The women do not understand it that well. Because of TV, because of watching Bollywood TV, quite a number of them have a smattering of Hindi, but no more than that. And rural women do not understand it at all. So if somebody goes and makes a terrible, wonderful speech in Hindi, somewhere in the rural areas, it all goes over their heads. Now, this is something that ought to be appreciated. This was appreciated in Tripura, which is why in Tripura the party came to power from practically zero. See, when I went as governor of Tripura in 2015, the party was practically non-existent. The party in power was the CPM, and the principal opposition was Congress. But one Prabhari, one person in charge of the party, called Sunil Devdhar, he worked indefatigably, and he worked so hard. He even took the trouble of learning Bengali. Tripura is largely a Bengali speaking state. And he worked so hard that BJP came to power. So it was unbelievable. In 2015, nobody could believe it. But in 2018, they came to power. This ought to be, such a thing ought to be done. The understanding of Bengali culture and how it is different, and how our style of campaigning ought to be catered, ought to be ought to be I can't find the word, with the culture of the Bengali culture has got to be studied. Some people have already made a study of this thing. There is one intellectual by the name of Sarup Prasad Ghosh. Sarup Prasad Ghosh has emphasized the role of, he's a Vivekananda scholar. Right now, he's in a government post. but he's a Vivekananda scholar, and he has emphasized how the earlier leaders of the BJP and the RSS have received their uh, inspiration from Swami Vivekananda. These people ought to be taken into a think tank, and a strategy ought to be crafted in which there will be a very strong Bengali element. Now, this is not being done. This is, in fact, not being appreciated at all. This is one thing that must be understood very clearly, that this is not just another Hindi speaking state. The language may seem like Hindi, close to Hindi, but it is not Hindi, and it is
You are
not another
actually,
Hindi.
sorry to interject, you are actually saying something very interesting, and which is a fact
Yes,
that BJP broke the code. A code of Assam is pretty different. I mean, absolutely
yes,
distinct.
yes,
So is Odisha. So BJP,
yes,
but Odisha still has a Hindutva element. So I'm leaving that
yes,
out. But
mm,
BJP broke the code of Assam and
yes.
Tripura. Tripura in 2018 election, I was there. I was one of the first reporter. I was there for another purpose, and I somehow I could unearth that, and I said that BJP is probably coming to power. It was the day election was announced. So, but in West Bengal, they are looking at a loss. Now, again, you spoke about voting strategy. Now, Modi's BJP is not short of strategy. They can be short of anything else. But when it comes to strategy, it is a masterpiece. Uh, but again, in West Bengal, strategy goes missing, right? Making narratives, everything. So right at this moment, it seems to me, I don't want to dwell much time on this, but it seems to me that BJP kind of lost hope. It's like a stepney. Is it so? They say that we are coming
No,
to
it is
power.
not so. It is not so. It is only waiting for the steps that I mentioned. That a full time president ought to be appointed without a day's delay, and that president ought to be armed with all possible powers and told to the all the foot soldiers of the BJP ought to be told that you better follow this president or else no amount of factionalism will be tolerated.
Right.
President may make mistakes. There can be so many things that can go wrong, but still, the president has to be given 100% support by the center. If this is done, then it may work wonders. It may not. It may be
That
a
is different,
success
but that push is somewhere missing. I mean, since they are sitting on the appointment of
See,
president.
that is why right at the beginning I said that I don't know why it is happening, why it is not happening. I don't know.
Sir,
There is another aspect in respect of which a thing has been crafted, narrative has been crafted by Mamata, knowingly or unknowingly. What is that narrative? That narrative is that there is some kind of understanding between the
sitting.
Trinamool Congress and the BJP at the top. It is called setting. In West Bengal, it is referred to as setting. Now, this setting thing has got to be rubbished, and very rubbished very convincingly and very unequivocally. That is also not happening.
That is not happening because the party is not seen on ground. If the party was seen on ground, then you cannot win an election on court orders. Let us understand this. And the court
No,
orders
no,
take 10
absolutely.
years.
No, no, I don't think you are correct. Certainly, the party is on ground, and there are foot soldiers prepared to get into the act. Unfortunately, the foot soldiers do not know whom to follow. That
Exactly.
is why I said that it needs a full-time president immediately. This, and it also needs a think tank. These two things are most essential.
Sir, I was just coming to that. Here are a couple of points. You said about the identity and other things. Now, there are a couple of markers. One is your command, party's command on the local intelligentsia, right? It has always been there. Whosoever come to power, they had a command on the intelligentsia, I mean, including Trinamool. Uh, I'll ask you to comment. I mean, I don't think that BJP has a great command on that part. Second is, Well, that is, we can excuse that, given that you have given a history of the left rule and etc. of the history. Now, West Bengal's cultural identity was built largely on Hindu and Vaishnavite philosophies. Both suffered during the last 50 years. There is a visible and sustained effort from vested interests to make the cultural identities uniform on either side of the border. From food to language, the attempts are quite imminent. My question is here, this is a little beyond politics, I mean, day to day politics. What is RSS and BJP doing to protect the cultural heritage? Because this is a strategy part. When you say you are an outsider by their party, so then, it is the party is getting 70% of the polled Hindu votes. And what is it doing to make its philosophies a little more attractive and get that additional 3% votes? Over to you, sir.
As far as I can see, the party has not appreciated these aspects. As I said, the party always talks of organization, 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 not of strategy, not of thinking. As a result, if you travel with different BJP leaders, you will find that they speak in different voices. Each one of them have something to say which he has been saying all along. And there is no central theme which holds them, central thread which holds them together. This central thread has got to be told to them. There is no such mechanism in BJP. Now, the need for this mechanism has first got to be appreciated. Then only the mechanism will come.
Right, right. This is where, let me end this episode with this. This is where a major flaw is coming. For example, when you are making uniform and very catchy, rather very insensitive or sometimes very controversial statements, uh, and say, let us not treat the entire Muslim vote as a block, because you have clear example of North Bengal, you have clear example of Malda with you, right? So there is no way BJP can get a seat in Malda if there was a block existing against you. So there should be this kind of this BJP is still failing to address or understand the innuendos that it has to negotiate with.
That is so. That is because of the lack of thinking. That is because of the lack of strategizing. Now, this is a thing that is on which I'll join issue with you. The Muslim vote is a block. The Muslims in West Bengal vote as a block for Mamata Banerjee, and they will continue to do so until they are under some kind of threat that this, if they don't vote, if they do keep on voting for Mamata Banerjee, in some way in future they will get into some kind of trouble. This is something that has got to be got into them, and BJP can only win other things by Hindu polarization. People say Hindu polarization is not possible. Of course it is possible. Otherwise, how did BJP get 38%
Exactly,
votes? Of
exactly.
course it is possible. Who said it is not possible? But that extra push which will get it extra 4%, 5% votes is not happening. That is all that I am trying to submit.
Thank you so much, sir.